Call meeting to order. Shelley can do roll call, please.
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor, thank you. District 1, Freddie Rios is excused. District 2, Councilman Pastor.
Here.
District 3, Councilman Leatham.
Present.
District 4, Vice Mayor Stapleton.
Here.
District 5, Councilman Gonzalez.
Here.
District 6, Councilman Shipley.
Here.
Mayor Gameros.
Here.
We have a quorum, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Doing the vocation.
Oh, sure.
Sorry.
Dear Lord, thank you that we could be here today to do the city's business. Please help us to keep our minds set on what's best for the future of the city of Globe, especially when we look at all these building codes. Just keep in mind that they're in place to keep people safe and protected. Please be with all those that help and serve each other in this community, especially our first responders, and all those that make sure everything works and the lights turn on. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Mariano, can you just do the pledge?
Yes, I would, Mr. Mayor. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Sorry. We'll start with a summary of current events. Mariano, we'll start with you down there.
Yeah, I'd like to give a tip of the hat to our city employees. They, day in and day out, they provide the services, the actual boots on the ground to our citizens. And every now and then I hear a citizen complain and yell at an employee. I don't like that. If you have an issue with the city's policies, at the highest level, you're welcome to come to these meetings or call your councilman, but you better bring a solution too. I don't care if you complain. I don't like our city employees yelled at. And if you call me anytime, day or night, I'll be glad to listen to you, try to get to a meeting of the minds. But please, respect our employees. They're out there doing the best they can to deliver the services that this city provides. And they don't deserve to be, they don't get paid enough to be yelled at. If you have a problem with a city employee or the policy, give me a call. I'm available to you day and night. The first year I took office, I held business office hours at the Globe Public Library from 5 to 7 p.m. Please feel free to call me. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Fernando?
The Humane Society is going to have a dinner and an auction on November 2nd at the Cobra Valley Center of the Arts from 5 to 9 p.m. It's $25 to get a ticket and then be part of the activities and get dinner, and it all goes to a good cause to help our local animals in need. So that's it.
Cool.
What was the time up?
It says 5 to 9 p.m.
Thank you. Mike?
Mr. Mayor, I've been going around in circles for the last week and a half, and I don't really know what to report on, but there's a lot of stuff going on in our community. We're moving forward, and it's a pleasure to be on the city council and address the needs of our constituents. Oh, that sounds pretty good. I'm not even running.
Sounds good, Mike.
Jesse?
Thank you, Mayor. I have nothing to report at this time.
Mike?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I have quite a bit for me. First of all, I want to give a huge shout out to the Allegiance Builders they went up to the Mountain Breeze Cemetery and cleaned that all up. And I drove by there and it looks phenomenal.
Yeah.
So they did a great job. So I'd love to get them to come out to the Globe Cemetery to give me a hand out there. So I think I'll talk to Lyle about that. And then I have some upcoming events that are coming up. There's 2 plays coming up at the Center for the Arts. The first one is Murder on the Orient Express. And that is there's actually 5 dates on that. October 11th, 12th, 13th, 24th, and 25th. And I don't have a price on that one. And then the next one is 6 Lives Lost in the Mighty Torrent, and that's on October 12th from 1 to 2:45, and that one's free of charge.
Where's that
That's at the Center for the Arts.
at? Okay.
And then we have a jail tour and a movie treat. All these are in October, and we're celebrating Halloween. That's why there's so many of them. But the movie that evening is The Invisible Man, and that's on October 11th at 7:45. And there's a $5 donation, but you can go for free. And then, of course, we have the ghost tour, the Halloween ghost tour of the jail. That's on October 12th. 3 different shows: 6 o'clock, 7:30, and 9 o'clock. And that's a $15 charge. Again, it's a donation. And then the Ghost of Globe tour, everybody knows that, downtown. This is the 26th annual tour, and that's on October 26th, all throughout downtown. And then the last one is, of course, the Halloween candy handout, and that starts at 4 o'clock and goes to up till 10 o'clock if everybody's still out there. So, busy October. That's all I have, Mayor.
Thank you, Mike. I have a couple of announcements. First, I want to thank our staff. I want to thank our employees and anybody that attended the State of the City. I really appreciate it. I hope you got a lot of the information out of it. I did get a lot of calls after that, just commenting on the things that were going on in the city of Globe. So it reached a lot of people. People watched it on social media and after. So thank you again to all our staff that set this up and worked hard to make it happen. On Apache G Day is on October 19th, starting I think 9 o'clock, and again downtown Globe. Last week I had the opportunity to go to the Globe High School Sharks first swim meet, and it was amazing. They had two other teams there. They were really excited. Everything turned out well. I mean, that's an amazing facility to have our swim meets there for our high school for the first time really in the history of our city. And tonight was their second swim meet. I didn't get the opportunity to go there, but they had another meet tonight. And just want to announce on the November 2nd, Capstone is celebrating their 50-year celebration. They opened that mine in 1974. So they're going to celebrate 50 years of mining there, and it'll be held. It's an all-day event. It's going to be at Bullion Plaza in the courtyard there, Bullion Plaza Museum, on the November 2nd. I think it starts at 9 and ends around 5 or something like that. So please put that on your calendars. That's all I had.
And Mr. Mayor, members of council, a couple things. We are in the middle of the sprint to mid-December. Got a lot of stuff going on, a lot of things that kind of time sensitive, going to get those done, some IGAs and some things we got to put in place. So we're doing that. Everybody's looking forward then to that little respite with the Christmas break, then hit it again on the ground running starting in January. One thing you will see very soon is the return of the department updates, lovingly known as Baby Sharks. And we'll get those back out to you and kind of refined and condensed that we're looking at as highlights of the department activities rather than comprehensive. And then the last thing, just a quick reminder, Festival of Lights is going to be coming up on the December 7th out at Besh, and then the Christmas Parade on the 14th in downtown Broad Street. So getting excited, getting close, but still a lot to get done. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council.
Thank you. Next, we have first community call to the public, and I do have one call card here. Do you have anybody online also, if you check that? So I have Margarita Yuriquez. If you want to come to the podium, state your name and your address, please.
I'm Margarita F. Orquides. I live in 941 South Jays Hayes Road. And I'm just here because I have a handyman that does my yard. And he told me to come and see y'all because y'all are going to be making sidewalks on the other side of my house. And he told me to come and see if y'all could make a trench or something big enough for the water won't go into my carport. So that's the reason I'm here, because, he told me to come and see, because at his house, he got the people that were doing the road and they made a big hump and that's it. so, and the water won't go back into my carport.
Great.
So that's
On-
all I'm
on-
here
On
for.
call to the public, we can't respond to you as a council, but we can direct staff and we'll have our city manager get with you to see what your concerns are with that, okay?
Okay, thank you very
Thank you
much for
very
your
much.
time.
Mr. Mayor, we've communicated and we're gonna pass this along to, Public Works and probably have Louise get back to her.
Great, thank you very much.
Okay.
Do we have anybody online or,
Nothing on no emails have come in, and anything on the phone?
No.
No.
okay, so we'll go to special presentations. We'll have item 3A's presentation update on the San Carlos Watch Fire by San Carlos Police Chief Elliot Sneezy.
Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, Vice Mayor. Good evening, Council. Good evening, guests. My name is Elliot Sneezy. Just a little bit about myself. I grew up in this area. I grew up in the San Carlos Apache Reservation. I'm 4 generations of police officers, and I graduated from Globe High School. After Globe High School, I went to the United States Marine Corps, served in Desert Storm, Desert Shield. After that, I came out and I started my career in law enforcement with the San Carlos Apache Police Department. After that, I transferred over to the city of Prescott and I worked for them for several years and then helped build the city of Maricopa with Mr. Jepson over there.
Yes,
So I retired and I thought my career was done, and it wasn't. I was called back to the San Carlos Apache Police Department and became the chief of police there. On July 11th, it was one of the worst days that I've seen in law enforcement because of the disaster that happened. And I've been through many things, meaning the war, been shot at, been stabbed, all sorts of different things. Nothing could have prepared me or anybody else for something that happened. And unfortunately, it was a arson fire that was started in 3 different areas in the Wash area. The person that started the fire probably didn't think that it was going to end up in the way it did, but it did. And what happened was our forestry thought that they put out the fire, and the fire was not put out completely. They were still hitting some hot spots when the following morning the wind picked up and it started and reignited the fire. The wind that day was incredible. I do have video of it, and I didn't bring it with me, but I know my time is limited. What happened was the fire was moving away from the San Carlos area, and if anybody knows where I'm talking about, the downtown San Carlos area, it was moving actually away from that portion, and it started being concerning to us because it started moving back to the area of San Carlos. Within minutes, the fire ended up engulfing one of our houses. And that's when our sergeant called for evacuations. And it was on the north side of San Carlos in the 7 Mile District area. One of the houses that were burned was right next to one of my late grandfather's house, who was also a councilman. Took his house out, and it started moving south along the river with all the houses there, and it started taking out more and more houses. There's pictures all online that you can see all this stuff. When I arrived there, because I was working, the flames were anywhere from 50 to 100 feet high. Just incredible. It reminded me of being in the Gulf War and driving next to these oil wells that were burned. And it was incredible to see how many people were getting out of their houses and just packing up whatever they had. And some of them left in the clothes that they had on and just moved and just got away. I remember my late grandfather, Leo Natson, his house was getting close to being burned. As the chief of police, there's not much you can do when it comes to watching a fire, getting ready to burn a house that you pretty much grew up in. And all you can do is just watch and hope and pray that the fire department or somebody comes and puts out the fire. By then, I want to say about 3 or 4 houses were already engulfed in flames. Then the fire kept pushing and moving south, threatening more homes. And this is where we had to block off roads. And it just pushed within 11 minutes. And it started making its way all the way towards Peridot. The people were worried just the same because people had handicap, people at home, kids at home still. There was so much going on and people wanted to get through. And in law enforcement, we tried to reassure people and calm people down. And people were upset. People were mad. They wanted to get through and we wouldn't allow them to get through because at our point, we were trying to save lives. I got to witness law enforcement officers who have family members there, and some of them don't have family members there, drive into these flames. And all I could do was hope and pray that they would come out safe. But they would drive into these flames, and they were getting truckloads of people and having them come out. And they were saving lives. At the end of this fire, it finally pushed more east, and during this time, the forestry was already working another fire, which was about 3.5 hours away up north. We were at the mercy of God, and we were at the mercy of anything that was going on at that time. And there's nothing, and I am also a former fire investigator, and I know exactly what the devastation can happen. There was a lot of things that we did learn in reference to that. We learned that, obviously fire, you can't control it, especially when the wind comes. But we also, and even as a fire investigator, you realize that it needs fuel. And this fuel is, all the wood, there's different types of chemicals in people's houses that will cause either explosions or it will continue to burn, tires, those type of things. And when you mix the wind to it, what happens is flames will start shooting off these things and will start something else on fire. It's important for us, at least in the future, to start educating our public that we need to, obviously, if we want our houses to be safe, move things away from the houses. We need to make sure that our residents are well aware, educated about these type of things. When this was all said and done, 2,162 acres of fire was burnt. We had over 23 structures that had burned down, and people lost a lot of property. One of them was my cousin who was working with EMS, and she was working when the fires were going down, and her house burned down. It was such a sad thing to witness and see, because to me right now, I still get choked up talking about it. Her father was also a veteran. I'm a veteran. And the last thing that she had of him was his flag. She no longer has that. It's these type of things, these memories that we cherish. But I will tell you, the most important statistic that we can say is that nobody died in this fire. And all I can say is thank you for, God for protecting us. But I also want to come out and thank all those that were involved. We ended up calling different agencies like Gila County Sheriff's Department, Graham County Sheriff's Department, White Mountain Apache Police Department, Tonto Apache Police Department, Globe Police Department. Did I get Gila County Sheriff's Department? Yeah, we called everybody. And this is the beauty of those that are in law enforcement. When our brothers and sisters need help, our residents need help, we call upon each other. And sometimes, we worry about jurisdiction issues. But in this case, nobody worried about it. I remember talking to Chief Walters, and again, when chaos like that happens, it's really hard to talk to somebody because your phone is blowing up from council members, from residents to other law enforcement jurisdictions. But I was able to speak with Chief Walters, and Chief Walters, whatever you need. I need bodies. I need some people to come out and help block roads. I'm thankful for the city of Globe. I'm thankful for city council, and I'm thankful for the Globe Police Department that they responded to the call. I'm here because I wanted to tell you in public that I wanted to say thank you. And what happened was I wanted to show our appreciation by giving something. And it's nothing big, but it means a lot to us because what it is, it's a challenge coin. And if anybody knows anything about challenge coins, it means a lot to especially those that are veterans, because that's what we do is we thank people. And this right here is the challenge that the City of Globe Police Department took the challenge, came out, didn't worry about anything else, and helped us out. And because of that, we were able to accomplish our goals. Nobody died. We're still in the rebuilding process, but we're doing a fantastic job. So I just wanted to say thank you. Thank you to the residents. Be proud of your law enforcement officers because they did a fantastic job. I do want to recognize those officers by name that came out. Sergeant Valencia, Officer Cruz, Officer Alcol, Lieutenant Williams, Detective Parker, Officer Gale, Officer Guerrero, and Sergeant Hernandez. They all came out and assisted us with roadblocks or whatever we could do in order to try to bring peace to our area. So again, thank you very much. I'm going to give you these, and I'm going to make sure that Chief Walters gets these too. But I also wanted you all to have one. And if you look on the front, it says thank you in Apache. It says Ahia. And in the back, it also has the emblem. I'm going to leave one here for you.
Thank you.
This is only a few people, thank you. Only a few people get these, and I'm giving them out to all the residents. Oh, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
I'm giving them out to all the
Thank you, Chief.
the council members for allowing their chief of police to make these decisions, because they're not easy decisions, especially going to a different area. And the crazy thing is there was a lot of things going on during that time, but I just want to come out. I've been going to every council meeting of every agency that responded and doing the same thing and saying thank you. So thank you for your time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Don't go away,
Before you
Chief.
go, we might have a couple of comment session.
Chief, I had a career in emergency management, state of Arizona, down to National Guard offices. I was a state planner. And here in Gila County, I was director of emergency operations for Gila County. During my career, I received one from Governor Ducey for service during floods and fires, and another one from Gila County for service during floods. And you need to understand, gentlemen, that it's a challenge coin for you to be even better than on the day you responded or managed a large disaster. It's a challenge. You take the lessons learned and you fashion a framework region-wide to be better the next time. In my case, statewide. And I put them on my desk, and I look at them during my career to remind me, why am I here? This is what. We've had our own disasters here in Globe in the last 3 years. And those are the same kinds of moments that I have witnessed agencies responding to the call. They don't question when they receive that call. I'll call it the 2 a.m. call. You don't know when you're going to get it, and you have to give everything that you can to help the agency in question, in your case, San Carlos PD. With that career and that knowledge, I could see the flames from my house up here on Bankers Avenue, and I knew it was a wind-driven event. It just blew. I've seen that before in my career. And I knew our agencies from the City of Globe were going to be called out. There was a lot of danger in that type of response. And how anyone did not die. You know, we've had the same danger here in Globe. We didn't lose a soul in our fire and floods. I don't know why that happens, but it's not luck. There's someone up above watching over us. So anything we can do to help you in your planning in the future, I will support. And I thank you for coming.
Thank you.
You're welcome, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you again, Chief.
Thank you so much. You guys
Appreciate
have a good
it.
night.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Good luck.
So item B is staff will give a presentation and provide updates on the community pool operations.
Good evening, Mayor and Council.
There's another one up here too.
That's where it went. So we're happy to bring forth our pool update and operational update, and we're, Danny, I think it's that's okay, we can roll with this one. Our pool hours and our anticipated closing date for the 2024 season. So our current schedule, and this changed as of this week, Monday through Saturday, and we have lap swim from 8 to 10:30, and this has been really popular with the lap swimmers in the community that have been over at the rec center, and then when the rec center closed at Labor Day, then they've transitioned over here. We have Wildland Fire that has enjoyed the open swim hours, as have the Tiger Sharks, because what we've found this year is that the Tiger Sharks have purchased memberships or wristbands to allow the swimmers to come in whenever they can so that they can complete their workouts and prepare for the meets, which the very first one was last Monday and it was fantastic. So this is our open swim hours, our current hours again that just changed. So from Monday to Wednesday, we are open from 4 to 6, and this is our last week of water aerobics, which the community has greatly enjoyed. We've averaged about 35 attendees. The last few weeks, it's kind of dwindled a little bit because it's getting a little chillier, but our pool has been heated for the last few weeks. This Thursday evening will be closed, and Friday through Sunday we'll have open swim from 1 to 5. And so next week will be our final week of normal operations, and this is so that our local students who are on fall break can have one last chance to enjoy our pool. And so Monday through Friday, we will have open swim 1 to 5. And we hope everybody can come out and jump in one more time. Again, the Tiger Sharks held their very first meet. It wasn't September 30th. I think it was the following week. And they had, as Mayor had mentioned, 3 teams, and it was great. There's a picture of our water aerobics group. And next year we will have two two different speeds of classes. We'll have something a little slower with lightweight or no weight, and then we have those who want something more challenging, and so they're going to have much heavier weights and go at a faster pace. So as we had mentioned, our last day of operation will be the 18th, and the Tiger Sharks have their last meet the 28th. There's a beautiful sunset picture of our pool. And again, thank you for everything this season. It's been an incredible one for the community. Our attendance numbers were fantastic, and we'll bring that back for a year-end report when we conclude next week. So, do you have any questions or comments?
On the pool, do they drain the water still during the wintertime?
No,
Leave
not
the
with the
water
membrane
in?
system.
So it'll continue with the water?
Yes.
So do we heat it when it's closed? Are we gonna heat it while it's closed?
No.
Okay, we're just gonna leave it.
Keep it open, keep it full.
Keep it full. That helps to maintain the integrity of the membrane system. And then, you know, we keep talking about having a polar bear event, so we can't turn the heat around for that.
And we should have one in December.
Should be first of the year. January.
It'll be 95.
New Year's Eve?
There you go.
There we go. I'll meet you there. You go first. All right. Well,
Hey,
that's all
thank
I
you.
have. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Linda.
Thanks, Linda, appreciate it.
Item C is staff will give a presentation on development process overview. The city?
Thank you. So our development department has changed quite a bit. Now we have a brand new director, Tony Manfredi, who he's next on the agenda. And we'd like to give a preview of how we've evolved to, and we've learned along the way. We've learned from what we've gone through, because of course we always talk about our growing pains. And so we'd like to share with you what we currently use as our development process. So if you're interested in opening a business, or really if you're interested in purchasing a building and you may be renting it, or you're just curious, then contact the City of Globe. And you ask, it's Michelle Yurkovich, she's our Development Services Manager, and she will send you a pre-development meeting application. And we sit down with the applicant and find out what do they want to do, what are their goals? And they may not know what they plan to do with the building, and we actually are working with someone right now who's purchased several buildings in the downtown area. Most of them are occupied, but there's one that he's doing some renovations on, and he doesn't quite know what will go in there. And so that particular project may change along the way, depending if at first he was wanting to know if he could bring in a type of business that wasn't appropriately zoned for. And so he knows now, before he goes in and starts talking to a potential tenant, it's not gonna be a fit. And so he can shift gears early on and bring in the right kind of tenant. So we send them the pre-development meeting application. It's very simple. What are your plans? What is your address, the parcel number, just basic information. And this is so that the applicant can gain insight from zoning and building and fire and what the regulations and codes are in regards to each of those. And also, what's the utility situation? We also invite APS to the meeting, and we also invite the Gila County Health Department to the meeting, because we do have a lot of food trucks that are interested in going brick and mortar. And these meetings are every Friday, most Fridays. 3-day weekends, we give staff that Friday, because a lot of people like to take that 4-day weekend, and most people don't want to schedule a meeting on that Friday, the applicants. So these meetings are in person or via Zoom. And most people do come in person. They like that touch. We've had some really fantastic comments. Tony's been told several times that they wish that every city did this. And these are people coming from larger communities in the valley. And this is not something that's offered. And so we've had incredible feedback from the applicants. And so we ask that the application come in 1 week, at least 1 week before before the next Friday that is available for the schedule. We schedule 3 one-hour meetings Friday mornings, so we usually do have 3 meetings on Fridays. And that gives our staff a chance to provide the feedback to the applicant. And so we can do our research. We need to do our homework so we can come to the meetings prepared. So then we come into the meetings, we let them know that any information that is shared with them at that time, it's very preliminary. And as they're doing their due diligence as well, right? And so, and as I mentioned there's one gentleman we are working with that we may have a few pre-development meetings with him because he's not sure what is gonna go in the building. And as he finds tenants, we'll also have pre-development meetings with them that could be independent of him or with him, because what they might wanna put in the building could affect the tenant improvement plan that they move forward with. And so then the next step, plan submittal and review. So we take a look at their plans and make a note that if their scope has changed since we met with them at the PDM, and that may affect the permits, we may have to restart the process. And this is just to give them all the information. So we've had businesses that have decided they are going to be moving forward with a certain type of operation, and they decide they want to add something later. And this is while they're still, in the pre-development process. We try to get in that as soon as we hear about it, and we let them know if there is a change in anything that you have shared with us, please come back to us so that we can help you along the way, so there's no delays in how you move forward. And this is really important, of course, as we all know, if you're having anything to do with food operations, because there's a lot of different layers here that need to be involved, Gila County Health. And so after that gets approved and permits are granted, then it goes to permitting. Those necessary permits are issued, and that might be building or signage. And this of course does apply to buildings in the historic district, but that's the next slide. So there's an additional layer there, bless you, to the development process. So after permitting, as the work is conducted and completed, inspections are scheduled for the customer at their convenience and upon our first availability. And our building official, Tony, is absolutely accommodating to everyone's schedule. Of course, it's hot. Everyone wants to get there. Most people want to get their inspections done early in the morning, and that's just great with our building official. And after everything is completed, they get their final approvals, and the certificate of occupancy is given, and it's time for the ribbon cutting. One thing to note is a certificate of occupancy is also given, say, for instance, there's a professional office that moves locations. They must apply for a new business license because of that change address, and they need to and with that business license application, they will also be getting an inspection for a new C of O on their new location.
Linda, before you move on.
Sure.
And I guess the first part of it, contact the city, and I think the problem that I guess we've seen is who tells them to contact the city? How do they find out how to contact the city? I know usually they're working with a realtor. You would hope that the realtor companies in this community would refer them to the city prior to even buying, to make sure that they're following the right path.
Yes, and we do have some referrals in that way, and business operators, whether they're actively operating or planning a new business, they're talking. And so they now know, come to the city, ask for that pre-development meeting application. And of course, when we're out and about, any of us, and which includes our public works crews, Mary Helen, our new licensing administrator, when any of us are out and about and we see activity in a building, we put that on our radar. We'll send that to our development services manager and our community development director, and they do reach out, as do I, and invite them in for a pre-development meeting.
Question, Mr. Mayor.
Go ahead, Mike.
So this is for businesses, or is this for businesses and homes?
So I did good catch. So we do residential pre-development meetings as well.
Okay, and that's a different flow? Or pretty
No,
much?
it's the same flow.
Okay,
And so we offer that because some people are, maybe they're investors and they're looking at a property and they're saying, can I do this? And so the best way to find that out is go through the pre-development meeting process. And that includes new builds as well. In fact, we just had a meeting this past Friday with an individual who is, and he's doing his due diligence, and I can't stress that enough. Before anyone makes a big move, signs a lease, makes a purchase, come to the city. We meet with you, and it's in confidence. Anything that you do share with us, if you'd like us to keep that to within the nest, of course we do. And so he hadn't gone into escrow on this property, and he's interested in putting tiny homes, a pre-manufactured product on it. And so before he goes and makes, again, a huge investment, he wants to know, is that allowable? And we try to work with the applicant to make it possible. And sometimes we do have to get creative. Any other questions? Fernando, you look deep in thought. Okay, so then there's the other layer. So if you're opening a business or looking to open a business in the historic district, then there's the historic district guidelines that we need to take a look at. So of course, step one, very similar to the PDM process. Really, the only difference is where HPAC comes into play. And as we know tonight, we're seeking members, so if there's members of the community out there, please call Shelley. We're looking for applicants. So that comes in after the PDM, because again, we've had some building investors or operators wanting to move forward, but they want to know, can we do this? Is this really appropriate for the historic district? Is our vision, does that jive with the district guidelines? And of course, as we all know, they make application to our zoning administrator, and then that is worked through internally, the conceptual design and the application review. We do that in-house and prepare it for success to go in front of HPAC, because of course we want our business operator, our applicant to succeed. And so these plans go through our zoning admin, and that comes to an HPAC meeting for review. And we're looking at, does it comply with our historic district guidelines? And sometimes our HPAC commission doesn't find that it does, and so they will vote to not recommend. But of course, that comes to council for final approval. And we've seen many projects that council has approved that HPAC has not. And that's things like Dominion Cutting Company, the bright blue doors. They look fantastic. Paint selections are always kind of a hot topic, and of course, council listens to the applicant and takes into consideration what's going on downtown and makes the best informed decision. And then after that, after it comes to council for approval, which council may approve with conditions, or they may approve, they might deny, and we've seen that as well. And so then it's back to the drawing board. What can they do to move forward? And we have seen that. We have seen plans that were not approved by HPAC, and council did not approve, or were not recommended, by HPAC, and were not approved by council. And so they did come back through, and taking into consideration those comments that they heard along the way. And the best resource is our zoning administrator, who was actively involved in the creation of the HPAC guidelines and has worked, throughout the state in the industry. So they're very well written. There's definitely some things that I think we can improve on in the future, and that will probably come when we discuss expanding the overlay, which we have discussed in the past. Okay, step 7. So after that, then comes again back to the community development department for permitting, any licensing, of course, business licensing, and any other permits that they may need, which include, of course, the building and the signage and things like that. Any questions before I move on from here?
I just have a comment. So we've seen a couple projects now where they made the final sale of the property contingent upon approval of the city council because we needed some variance of some kind or another. But I thought that was pretty smart because they can lock up the property and then pursue their dream. And if it doesn't get approved, they might lose some earnest money, but they can move on without too much damage.
Exactly, and we've seen that with some big projects, for instance, Hill Street School, the Marigold project on the northeast corridor, so those are two of our larger projects. But then there's some smaller ones, some smaller buildings downtown that the purchaser did or did not move forward based on the feedback that they got. And so that takes us to these scenarios. These are real life examples that we've seen over the years. And then coming back to what you had said, Fernando, about contingent upon approvals from the city. There was one sale of a rather large property. In fact, it was Oscar Hill School, and the purchaser purchased this without the city knowing. It did not use a local realtor. There was no local involvement whatsoever. And so how it was noticed was activity on site. And so I stopped one day, introduced myself, and said, what are you planning on doing here? And they shared what they were planning, and I, kind of got that look. I don't think this is going to be allowable. And in the end, we tried so hard to get creative to see if that was possible, what this person was wanting to move forward, and it wasn't. And so now they've switched gears. It's back on the market, and we've reached out to, and it's not a local realtor. So sometimes, we go back and we talk about educating our local MLS group on, what does HPAC mean? What are the guidelines? What does that mean if I'm going to buy or sell a property in downtown? And so we did reach out to that out-of-town realtor to let them know that this property was in a unique area. It was built before zoning in our area, and it could not be rezoned because it was this little island within the residential district. So it could operate as a B&B with a CUP because it's lower density, but what he was proposing was an operation with more than quadruple the density. And so that wouldn't have been allowable with that current zoning, even through a CUP. So, okay, scenario one. I'm looking at, or I just bought a building in downtown or in the city. Again, come to the city. Let's have a PDM. Let's talk about it before you sign on the dotted line. And we can help you and give you all the information that you may need. And we can look at all the different scenarios that you might be interested in, whether you wanting to do retail, if you're going to do service, and then we can help you along the way. And again, we've had several of these types of meetings, and that has led to, of course, final sales. Next one, wanting to fix up an existing building downtown or in the city. They may or may not already own the building, and they may or may not have already done some work. And sometimes, as you had mentioned, Mayor, we come upon activities sometimes and are told, well, I didn't know I had to do this. I said, okay. So we invite them in, we educate them, give them, of course, the information that they need, take a look at our website, of course, and we help, again, a resource to help them along the way. We invite them in for that pre-development meeting, or if they just have some basic questions, because not everybody wants to come in for a PDM. And of course, that's their right, but we always want to provide the best customer service to our applicants and potential applicants. Okay, third scenario. They, again, started to fix up a building in downtown, but they didn't go to the city. So what happens in these cases? Well, sometimes they're receptive and say, okay, I may or may not need a permit. I might have to go through HPAC, and we've seen these examples. And most oftentimes they are willing to work with the city and the process that we have to follow. But we do have those that, I bought this building, I want to do exactly what I want to do with it. I don't want to ask. I don't want to go to HPAC. What is HPAC? And so then that comes to a stop work order. And so has a little more teeth, and so then again, we begin the communication process again, let them know this is how you can move forward, because we want them to. We want to see the improvement in downtown, we want to see them go live, have that ribbon cutting, and so after that, if they move forward, fantastic, and then they can open their business and proceed. But sometimes we do continue to hit that wall over and over again with certain individuals, and then that's when it has to go to our code enforcement officer, which is now called our code compliance officer. And so this is our flow chart. This is our basic code process. Oh, should I go back if you have any questions?
No.
Okay.
I like compliance better.
Okay, so code compliance, day 0. Let's say we get a complaint, whether it be a call to a council person who calls us, and then or it could be they file either live here in person in City Hall, they come in and they fill out a report of concern paper, or they can do it online, or we can help them fill it out over the phone as well. So day 1, complaint reported, noted. So we have 5 days to follow up after the contact is made and investigate the situation. See, did it really happen? Is it going on? And we take pictures. And then we do make contact with that property owner, let them know that this is what has been reported, and then we give them about 5 days to see if it can be mitigated. We go back, day 10. If it's been addressed, fantastic. Then we can stop the process. But if there's been no movement, and now there is a notice of non-compliance letter, which is very clearly stated on the letter. This is not a citation. So I think it has a softer feel to it and been better received. So that's at day 10. So they have 30 days upon receiving the NONC, Notice of Non-Compliance Letter. And they have the 30 days to comply. Mike, did you have a question? Oh, no. Sorry. Okay. And then we follow up. If it's been addressed, fantastic, case closed. But if not, then the citation is issued. And this is when it goes to our new city prosecutor, who we work with to determine, does it go into as a civil citation, or is this a criminal citation? That's probably a little deeper in the weeds, and we can come back with a deeper conversation, or if you have questions, absolutely answer that now. And so that diversion, what we call the diversion program, is if the person who's received the citation is, maybe they have compelling circumstances, maybe they're out of town, maybe they're ill, maybe they're not, they don't have the means. So then our city prosecutor works with them to give them that opportunity to take care of the situation. But then of course
I had one where it was a husband and wife that gotten divorced, and the husband got the home, but because of the paperwork and the battle, he couldn't do anything with the house legally until that was completed, and because there was this disagreement, that couldn't happen. And in the meantime, his time ran out, not once, but twice. And I advised him, I said, the only thing you can do is go to the judge and throw yourself on the mercy of the judge, because their guidelines, there's no other option, so you have to get to the judge. And so he did, and the judge realized his situation to be, in fact, something he couldn't do anything about, so then they gave him more time. But yeah, it's sometimes, that's the only way to get it done.
Mayor, did you have a question or comment?
Yeah, I've gotten calls, and obviously I turn them over to you guys, but the day 10, I think, is when people get that, when they get that notice of non-compliance. I think they feel that that's a citation or something that they're really confused or concerned about. One of the questions I had is when our code compliance goes out and they tag, say there's a trailer that's on the roadway, do they make contact with them, or they just Cause the ones I've gone, they say, I just got a sticker on my car or my trailer, but nobody ever contacted me.
An attempt is made to make verbal communication with. Or we try to, sometimes we know who it is, or we can research that through the utility bill and make contact that way. But there's often times where they're unresponsive. They don't come to the door, they don't answer the phone. I mean, we've gone to the lengths of, well, we know who their niece is and where they work. And so we try to make, try to put that human touch to it because, it's our community. But sometimes that's what we have to do is put the tag on it. And we do put tags on vehicles that are along the 60. I mean, we have a commercial stretch down there near Fry's that people love to park what they are trying to sell, and can't do that. It's the property is not zoned for that, and so that either the tags are noticed by the vehicle owners, and we've contacted the property owner to let them know that this is your property. You are ultimately responsible for what is here, and so if you are being contacted and say, hey, is it okay if I park my boat here or my RV? It's not. And then, of course, I was gonna take you down a rabbit hole this doesn't cover. Yes.
So if the owner approves it, they still have to come through
Well, the owner can't approve it because the property is not zoned to be a used car lot. Sales lot, basically.
Okay, no, that's fine.
And that's why it looks cleaner in that area. And we've gotten a lot of positive comments on that.
But at the same time, the owner could allow it, or allows it, but it's still in violation with the city code.
And at that point, then the property owner would be cited.
Okay.
You will cite the property owner?
Yes, that is a potential situation.
Good.
Linda, can you go back to that slide?
Yes,
So-
no, I wasn't done.
Mr. Mayor, members of council, we've learned kind of the hard way that we need to have a timeline and we need to stick to the timeline. It's not fair to others that we languish on some and not on the others. We need to maintain our credibility and our consistency between everybody that we treat. Now, the one thing about, at any point, up to 85 days, almost 3 months, the violations are resolved, then the case is closed. That's all we need. What's so important about getting the notice of non-compliance to them early is it lays out exactly technically what the violations are, so they know what they're trying to fix. And then that they know there's a ticking clock. But even if it makes it to a citation, like say, that doesn't mean it's over. You still can get it fixed. You can call up the prosecutor and he can help you get more time. Even as long as you go to the judge and at the time you have that resolved. There's plenty of options to do that, but we have to make sure that we start the process. I know you're gonna get it fixed. I know you say a month from now your cousin's gonna come down, he's gonna help you take care of all this, that's fine. So we'll give you this notice of compliance, and when you get it fixed, then it'll be wrapped up, it'll be closed. So it's really important that we lay out timelines, what you're doing here, and we stick to those timelines. Also with the increase, with having the prosecutor there, with this pretrial diversion, that person, before it gets to court, can try to work out options that are reasonable and make this happen. We want to try to avoid going to court, avoid the trial, and just get these solved.
Our goal is always just compliance. We're not out there this is not a new revenue stream. This isn't gonna buy us a whole new fleet for the entire city. So we want to work with the property owners and help them to get that point, to the point of resolution.
Yeah.
I think the most positive thing that the city has done is hire that prosecutor and have that diversion program, because a lot of people that were issued citations, they kind of just waited till they went to court even to explain that they weren't able to do it, but they're waiting. But now that we have this diversion program, now they're in touch with somebody to communicate, to extend, or to try and resolve it without going to court.
Well, our code compliance officer would stay in communication with the cited person. But again, one person handling all of the citations in queue, by having the city prosecutor and his staff, this just really helps to increase our bandwidth, our productivity, and closing of the cases and moving them forward. So there has been that, and of course, I'm sure we can point to times that we didn't have that personal touch. And again, that does come back to, was the person receptive to that? And so now that we do have the city prosecutor who does not live in the community, you're not gonna run into this person in the grocery store. It's a more professional way to handle the situation. It kind of takes that emotion. Not that we're unfeeling, of course, but it's a process. We're following our code, which is our law.
And Mr. Mayor, members of council, just so you know, like I say, when you get the citation and then you come into plea, and at that point, the court will say, here is the number to the prosecutor. If you would like to give him a call and talk about your case and see if you can work something out, feel free to call him. It is not our requirement to call that person. If they're like, no, I'm going to court, I want my day in court, that's fine, that you can do that. But if they do that, if they want to have that negotiation, if they want to see if they can get a plea, then if they can do a plea, they come to agreement, we file that in the court, and once it's completed, it's wrapped up without creating a trial. But as Linda's saying, you know, there's kind of the work with them on a personal level, but some people need to know that this is not going away. And that's why when we have a hard timeline, we know the timeline's not going to change, and the prosecutor's going to be there, and there's going to be a trial, and it tends to motivate people to get these resolved, and that's all we're asking for.
And this type of flow chart is published on many municipal websites, and as council knows, we are moving forward in developing a new website, and so our process will be displayed in a very similar way. So it's basically this, and of course, day 85, that might look more like day 70 or might look like 90. It just depends on the caseload of the court.
And Mr. Mayor, members of council, last thing, when you're talking about the pre-development meetings, we want to get people in early. We want to get them to understand. People don't realize there's floodplain requirements. They don't realize the zoning. They just know they have a building, they want to get this, they want to get it open, and there's so many things, and they don't realize that small changes have big impacts. And you go in there and they say, we're going to do X, but then they come back and they're doing X plus Y, and it's like, oh, but Y triggers something. So the earlier we're in, we don't want them to trip up, we don't want them to have surprises, we don't want to find out that it's not doable, or if it is doable, it's very expensive and going to blow their budget. They're putting good money into this, and we want to make sure. That's why it's our desire to get, as soon as possible, get them the information they have, try to dig out what their options are, and sometimes it's a surprise and they're frustrated, but better to find out before you've sunken a lot of things in, so you can make the adjustment or correction or whatever ahead of, too early in the process.
And we're trying to, of course, educate our local community, our business community, our realtors, that doing your due diligence will absolutely benefit everyone in the long run, because time is money. And so the PDM process is the best opportunity for you to get all of the agencies that you may be having to work with as you move forward, whether it's your residential remodel, rebuild, you're looking to open a new business, move locations. Let's sit down and have the in-person conversation and get your questions answered. So we're happy to do that. We did meet up with a member of SHPO at a recent conference, and we actually talked about this, about whose responsibility it was to educate on being in the historic district, and she did say it it is part of doing your due diligence processes. You know, the city, we do all we can to put that information out there, whether it be a hard copy that's now at every brokerage in the local area. We go out of our way if we see a property that's for sale and we know there's some interest and activity in that, we reach out to that out-of-town realtor, put that information in their hands. And there's also the due diligence of some of that responsibility is on that real estate professional, because you're representing the interest of the seller, and so needing to educate yourself on all of it's just like deed restrictions really, and CC&Rs. So it's all tied to that property so that you can best educate your seller and of course the buyer, because you of course want the transaction to be a positive one, and repeat business is important.
Fernando?
Is there a marker or something we could put on the assessor's site to show that it's a historic property?
So we had discussed that, and that was something that we had discussed with SHPO, and yes, it is something that it could be recorded on the property, that this property is within it would be actually the ordinance. And so that it would be noted that this property falls under this ordinance, and so if they are moving forward with the purchase, that they need to be aware of this.
So do we do that, or who has to do that? Initiate that to be added?
We are in the early stages of exploring that. So we do think that the city could do that. But we need to confirm that, of course, with our legal.
And the assessor?
and the assessor.
Okay.
Mike?
So, if you have a house and you consider it's a historic house, is that based on information you've researched? Or do people just come in and say it is a historical house and that they want to refurbish it?
So, I mean, we have what we call this.
In the residential area.
In the residential area.
Yeah.
We don't have a historic overlay, a district overlay on any of our residential neighborhoods. So when we refer to our beautiful historic neighborhoods, I mean, they are historic, but a lot of times, of course, kind of use the word to, if you're selling it, you know, that might add a little bit of value to the home too, because there are people that are interested in historic properties. So is your question?
The case I'm referring to is the case that we're aware of, but, okay, and, I mean, she ran me through a whole process for about 45 minutes. And it finally got to the point where she said, I got the report that the the city attorney wants me to get, the prosecutor. I says, well, that's what you're supposed to do. I says, you don't have any ground to be really complaining to me. I says, you need to follow the process because that's the way it's set up.
And again,
I think that settled her down, but I don't know.
and that's a great example. But it's all about process. We want investors, buyers, of course, sellers to be able to sell their property, but by following the process, that's how you can get to your goal.
Yeah, she complained about everything, and then at the end she says, and I got the report, and I says, well, that's what you need to do for your next step in the process. And she was like, oh.
So we actually researched this when I was on council before. And so it's a physical jurisdiction, it's like a map, and this is a historic district. And then just because it's in there doesn't mean it's historic, because like these buildings where the fronts of them got chopped off, they don't meet the definition of historic, so they don't even count. But we looked at doing some of the historic neighborhoods and preserving some of the houses and stuff, but it would have required a survey. We would have had to identify, there was a lot of work that had to go into it. And at that time, it just wasn't, the timing wasn't good. It was like we had too many big fish to fry. But that was something that we really considered, because our lack of having anything means that somebody could take the most beautiful house in town and just bulldoze it because they want to put Connex house there. And as long as they can comply with building codes,
they can.
Yeah, it's up to them.
And so if we want to preserve the historic feel of Globe, that might be something that we would spend some time and effort to figure out.
You know, kind of going back to, we have an example right now, we're working with a downtown property owner whose building does not have the original storefront, was one of those buildings, and they're moving forward to bring back that historic feel. So they're recreating the facade that may have been there at one time. And so even though it's not a property that would be truly deemed historic, because it is in the historic district, and again, must follow those guidelines, because we want to preserve that historic feel and flavor of our downtown. It's a gem. I mean, we're so fortunate to have a downtown like we do. So they're moving forward in this way, and that might be what's on the agenda tonight.
Now, Linda, when
No, it's
they
not.
come in
It's next
to
week.
the city, do you just refer them, you gotta go to our website and here's what it is? Or do you give them a handout like this as an algorithm as to they can look at physically to do?
If they wanted one, if they requested one, we could print one for them, but people more and more are going to, they use their phone more than a laptop.
Yeah, but we have a lot of older, we
That's
have a
fine
lot
if
of
they-
different, that are frustrated to going to a website and would rather have a physical copy of
They
what.
can come and request one.
Okay.
I think, along with those lines, Linda, if you don't mind me saying, it would be good to have a stack of these available for when somebody walks in, says, this is what you need to do, like we've talked about in the past. Cause they don't know what they're doing. I didn't know what I was doing when I did it.
Yep.
So, but if they're available,
Could you
I
just
think
put
that would help.
could you just put a poster in City Hall somewhere that said that, like our information boards, or somewhere that's in City Hall when they walk in, they see it. It's right there. There it is.
We have rat cards that I intended to bring and hand to council. In fact, I'll grab one before the end of the meeting. And so that's what we have gone to, and it's a really good overview of what it means to have a property in the downtown district. Because having that packet there is, if maybe just out of curiosity they want to pick one up, but it's easier for them. They get all this, really the same information, that overview on that rat card, and then if they are moving forward with development or a purchase, then that's when I think it's a better idea to give them the entire packet. And again, we want them, to come into a PDM, happily give them a copy of it. That way we can help best guide the development.
I think I know the process pretty well, but this is very informative, just having this packet. I'd love to have a stack of them to hand out just to carry around with me, because this is the algorithm that really means a lot to really truly understand our process. Even the gentleman I referred you to that I accidentally ran into, he was buying a third building in the downtown, hadn't even contacted the city and already did work in 2 other buildings in the historic district. And had already done it, and now buying a third building, but wasn't aware to contact the city. So, he was and ignored it. So, but these would be good. I'm just telling you, I'd rather have these than go on a website.
No.
Do they contact the Chamber of Commerce or something? Do they stop there first? I get the impression that they don't know where City Hall is and they don't come, but Chamber of Commerce, I remember they used to do a lot of business with people coming through town.
Which they still do. So maybe those rat cards you could put
Yeah,
them at the
I'd
chamber.
like to see them, yeah.
Sounds good.
Good.
They're nice, they're attractive, and they don't take a lot of real estate up.
That'd be nice. Any other questions?
Just one comment. I acted as a project manager for my parents last year to get into our house up on Bankers. And the only thing that saved me was a career in emergency management, because often you're in recovery mode and helping the community. And you become very familiar with the processes and the industries and the contractors that come to play and the permitting that has to happen. And that's the only thing I could draw upon as I went through that process. I knew Tony was going to show up. I knew that inspections would occur as each utility was brought back online. And I was very lucky because I had that career to rely on. But you're right, that would be the best thing to have for anyone who walks in the door.
I agree.
That is more on the the facade, right, the commercial, the requirements for the downtown, that's not having to do with inspections or permitting or anything like that. what we
But to
do
have that as a resource,
Mhm.
here you go.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's,
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
all right.
So next we go to item 4 is consent calendar. Matters listed in the consent calendar considered to be routine, be enacted by one motion, one vote. Public hearing items are designated with an asterisk. Prior to consideration of the consent agenda, the mayor will ask whether any member of the public wishes to remove a public hearing item for separate consideration. Members of the council or staff may also remove any item for separate consideration. Item A is consideration of waiver of section 2-4-10A. Prior discussion rule to allow action on the balance of the consent agenda. Accounts payable, $1,132,748.59. That's all we have, okay.
Mayor, I move to approve the consent calendar.
Second.
Before we do, I'd like to pull accounts payable
Oh, okay.
for an explanation.
Okay,
And you have a copy?
I motion to approve moving item 1.
let's do that.
So, we don't have motion yet to pull one, because we only have
Well,
one.
You need to pull it first.
you need to pull it, yeah, you'll need to pull it.
Which one is
Motion to
it?
pull it.
So there really is nothing to approve in consent,
Yeah.
so,
Motion to pull and talk about it again.
yeah,
There you go.
so a motion to pull it, I guess, and then.
Yeah,
I think-
Well,
motion
you can
to
always,
approve the
you got a
consent.
motion and you
I
can
think,
discuss it.
whatever.
Yeah.
And the only reason I wanted to pull it, because it's a high number, 1 million, but I just want to explain to the public, if they're listening out there, that $500,000 of that was for the smart meters. That is a reimbursable grant that the city will get back. We have to put up the money first and then reimburse, and there's about $170,000 in insurance premiums. So usually our accounts payable are not this high. I just wanted to make sure that they understood why it's over $1 million.
And I think there's also a payment to ADOT for $70,000, which was approved by council, prior meeting, so it's just, just the transactions going through.
Okay, Mayor, I would move to approve item 4A1.
Consent agenda. You got the second? Okay, we have a motion, a second for approval of the consent.
Well, no.
Yeah, or item
A.
4A1. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion passed. Thank you. Item 5, Historic Advisory Preservation Commission meeting. A, update to council on the Historic Preservation Advisory Commission membership. And Shelley, is that gonna be you?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, thank you, members of the council. Since the last historic preservation meeting, 3 out of the 5 membership has resigned, so we're down to just 2 members of the HPAC. So per city code, there has to be at least 5 members to make the commission. So in that stead, council would hear any items that were to be brought before that HPAC committee, and so I wanted to explain that before the item was brought before you. This has not been before HPAC, so you'll be hearing this item for the first time. We are presently recruiting and working on an application and appointment process. So,
What was the reasoning that we lost 3? What was the reasoning that we lost 3?
you know, they were personal reasons. They just had things going on and couldn't make the meetings and couldn't give the attention that they wanted to give to that commission.
All 3 at once?
Within a week of each other.
Or consulted with.
Yeah.
You know, I think the historic preservation of our downtown is vital, and we need to maintain the integrity, whether we do it through HPAC or whether we do it through council though, but we truly, if we're gonna recruit, I think we need to recruit the right, the people that understand the process. I think sometimes people get in there, maybe don't understand it, but we truly need to preserve our downtown historic area, and there's a lot to it. It's not just checking them off and saying do this, but yeah.
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor.
And Mr. Mayor, members of council, in December, we'll be seating the new council, and a lot of these appointments are coming due to be reappointed. And I think what we've learned is a little to have a process an interview process, and we're gonna talk about this with council to have you build what you would like to see. But I think both an interview process, which each can learn about the other and about what the true duties are and the responsibilities and the workload on that, and then a selection process from there. And we also realize we have an ethics code in the boards, committees, commissions that need to make sure that is, brought forward. And I think the one element is the boards, committees, and commissions work to serve the council alongside of staff. And so we work with them as both of us, trying to get council the advisory information they need. And so we have to, I think, do a little bit more partnering between staff and the committees and commissions to make sure that we're pulling in the same direction.
Okay, that was just an information item.
Yeah. So with that said, we do have Dana online to present this next item.
Okay, so item B is consideration of a request of a new wall sign and artistic accents on the front building face of El Ranchito Restaurant located at 686 North Broad Street.
Can't hear you.
Dana, we can't hear you. Yeah.
We heard that.
What do you say? No, I think we saw that.
No, we really didn't
hear
hear
you.
that.
Okay.
We understood that.
Nothing
You
yet.
read your lips.
Someone made changes to.
Dana, it might be on our end. We're looking into that right now.
Not yet, Dana. Nothing. Hang on.
Technology.
Right? It's kind of along the same lines as this.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, there you go.
Dana, try now. Anything?
Nope.
No?
Well, that looks pretty
Still
neat.
cannot hear you, Dana.
And it's raised out so that it's backlit, so the lights go back to the wall. Should look pretty cool.
Yeah, and you were
Too
looking
bad
at
they're
it.
not open at night.
Huh? That'll be nice up front. They were gonna do that before, but they got ripped off by a company in the valley.
Do you want to do the phone?
My mic's all the way up. Does that sound any better?
A lot better.
Yep.
You're up.
A lot better. We can hear you now.
About a millimeter or two to the max. Okay, excellent. Thank you, and I apologize for this delay. Mayor, council members, thanks again for considering this agenda item, request for historic preservation approval of a new sign for the El Ranchito Restaurant. There at 686 North Broad Street, and on your screen right now, I will project the proposal before you. Staff's evaluation confirms that it does, in staff's opinion, meet the design guideline criteria that apply to the Historic Preservation Overlay District. It's obviously very clean, simple signage. We're looking at only in terms of sign area, the text. The additional artistic accents would be artistic accents and exactly that. So with that, it is within the allowed sign area for this building, which is basically 21 square feet, and this is approximately 18 and a half square feet. And then here is a view of that image in the evening. It's the El Ranchito, the text is intended to be backlit, and that would be an idea of what it might look like in the evening. So with that, staff is recommending approval with the conditions listed in your staff report, which I have included here on the screen. We do recommend council motion to approve as recommended by staff to include these conditions of approval, including there's an expiration of 1 year, something new that we're including to ensure that we don't have ongoing
approvals that aren't implemented, and then things change, obviously. So with that, I'd be happy to respond to any questions you have.
Looks good.
Yeah, I like it.
I like it too.
Dana, what is the, right-of-way encroachment? What is that?
It's a city parking.
So looking at this image before you, the El Ranchito, all of that sidewalk is city right away.
So
And that goes the same for all buildings along Broad Street and most of your downtown streets. There's zero lot line, basically. As you mentioned in a prior discussion tonight, the facades were removed so they could move the lot line to that location. So when somebody's doing activity and work in the right of way and obstructing the sidewalk and things, the city has a process to comply with, to erect scaffold and obstruct that right of way. Obviously, the city has a interest in ensuring safe right of way, and that's the impetus of that requirement.
So while they're putting up the sign, that they want to bolt to the wall, that's the reason that, recommendation's in there.
Correct. Anytime they're working on the front, paint, whatever it is, we know they're in our right of way doing work. And we want to ensure that we're meeting all our risk obligations
Okay.
for people doing work within the right of way, even to their personal property that's abutting the right of way.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, good. Mr. Mayor, if there's no further questions or discussion, I would make a motion, we consider approving the request for a new wall sign and artistic accents on the front of the building face of the El Ranchito restaurant.
did you want to include these stipulations?
Oh, and that they meet all the stipulations recommended by the board.
Second?
Motion second for approval of item 5B. One other question, all these stipulations, Dana, have been discussed with the owner already? Or is this something?
But they're standard, we can walk through them. I don't even know that I saw an application, a formal application for this particular item. But they're welcome to bring it back, if there's something that they don't agree with. I'd be happy to reach out to them tomorrow, so I have that information.
He's a contractor.
But they're generally standard. We want people to repair, patch all unused vents and mechanical equipment and so forth. One item we see here, and we've specifically stipulated, was let's complete the scupper as well. Since we're on this topic and you asked the question, it looks like there were drains at one point through the curb. If you'd like, I can continue to just walk through those and explain the rationale.
Okay, so we can add additional requirements beyond just a sign then, on any business?
Yes.
With the historic preservation design approval, we attach customarily, I think most projects you've seen, if not all, in the last 2 or 3 years would say, hey, you're responsible for cleaning weeds. It's just an extra reinforcement to reiterate the city's requirement to maintain the property.
Thank you. Any other discussion?
No.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. Any abstaining? Motion passed. Thank you, Dana.
Council members.
Go to items, new business, item 6A, discussion and consideration to approve the notice of intention to increase water and wastewater rates and fees and to announce a public hearing date. And there's a change on our agenda date from November 12th to meet the requirements to December 10th, 2024. So that's a revision on our agenda then.
Yes, thank
If
you.
anybody has any questions, Shelley could answer those.
So, Mr. Mayor, members of council, it's been over about 3 years since we've raised water and sewer fees, actually be rates for our delivery of water and the carrying away of sewer. But it's a 6-month process. A lot has happened in the past 3 years. A lot of changes, a lot of, everybody knows what's going on in the world, and we've been trying to keep those prices and costs in a reasonable amount. But it is time that we look at, and we need to look at adjusting them so we can make sure that we continue to deliver the highest level of water and treat the sewage at the highest rate that we can. We have a lot of investment going on. All those millions that we're getting from the federal government, it's millions that aren't impacting our rates. And so we are currently wrapping up a rate study that will be presented to council very soon. I was hoping to have results from that before this announcement, but we need, because it's a 6-month time frame from initiating the process, which we're asking to do tonight, to actually implementing the new fees, the new rates. We need to get going on that. This will not be the last time we talked about this topic. We have a schedule here with tonight, October 8th, notice of intent to raise the rates. October 22nd, the first public discussion of the proposed rate increases. November 13th and the 20th, we'll advertise in local paper the public hearing date of December 10th. On December 10th, we will have that public hearing and the first read, and that is 60 days after we've given this notice. And then after that, we will have final adoption and probably a meeting in between there after the public hearing, and then go into a discussion of the results of the public hearing, make sure that we're on board for final adoption, and then final adoption after that. So there's many chances for everybody to chime in. I think that once you hear the presentation from the city on what we're asking for and why we're asking for it, and how the importance of it, and the balance that we have on why we're doing what we're doing, I think you'll agree, and then we'll let the process work through. But we definitely need to start that process. So if it is council's desire to and feel the need to make those adjustments, we do it in the proper and legal way. That study is really important, and we'll have those results very soon.
How soon do you anticipate those?
We hope to have a presentation on October 22nd. So we have a meeting tomorrow afternoon. I will tell you, every time we meet on this, we get it tighter and tighter and tighter. So that's important. But we didn't want to miss our deadline, because it is important that we start now so we can incorporate this. The other thing is we have new meters coming in that will help and make sure that we're capturing the revenue that we should be. A slow running meter is going to report less usage, and so that's only fair that we have these new meters. That'll help. We have different growth coming on board. We have Marigold coming on board. We want to make sure we capture those. And one of the other things that we'll be looking at is a capacity fee. So not only will we charge, the users will pay for the use of the water and the removal of the sewer, but new businesses coming into town will help cover that capital cost that others have paid, and reimburse the city for those capital costs to deliver the water and remove and process the sewer. So there's a lot of factors in here. It's a very technical study, but we will have those results very soon and start that process. It is up to staff to make a true analogy, a true case to you to justify what we need to do, why we need to do it. But there is some flexibility. It depends on how aggressive we want to be in our infrastructure, our CIP changes, and that. If we need to balance that out, we do have, council has some leeway to adjust one versus the other. The other thing is we want to look not just this year, but over a 5-year window. So we want to look into the future, and this study will allow us to do that. So, but tonight is just about letting the public know and starting that ticking clock on our process, and it may take longer, who knows? But we will work through it until council believes that we're at this place we need to be and doing the right thing for the balance and for the residents and for the future of the city.
And you mentioned it very well about the education to our residents. They really need to understand there's much more to it with our ratios we need to maintain in order for our loans to come through and stuff like that for the future of infrastructure. So I think just like we did the 1% sales tax, we educated the public, they understood it, and I don't think there'll be an issue with what we're trying to move forward with.
And Mr. Mayor, members of council, I think we're behind. I mean, we've had the same rates through and we know everything seems to be going up. We've tried to hold down on increasing these fees, because we know the impact it has. But we still have a requirement to deliver quality water and treat sewage properly. And so we need to be able to do that within the confines of our budget, within the confines of the enterprise budget, because we don't want to be using general funds to pay for the enterprise operations, and we don't want to use enterprise operations to pay for general funds. It's a standalone utility that we operate, and we need to make sure it can pay for itself. And there's costs out there that we have no control over. We've seen it in the bridges.
Mayor?
Yeah. Go ahead, Fernando.
So the loans that we have through WIFA, we already adjusted the rates to
Yes,
the 1.2% that we needed to have.
Right, they were at that. And we are gonna hold off. There are two loans that we were looking at. We were looking at a $2 million water loan and a $2 million sewer loan that we had intended to apply for at the end of this year. I think right now, until we can get this in place and see the results of these, whatever increase council finally approves. So our intentions are to recommend that we go through the process, put the rate structure in place, give it about 6 months and see what the results of those rates are. Make sure that what we projected we will collect, and make sure that that is coming in, and then go and say, okay, we've got them in place and they're producing what we thought they were producing. Maybe they produce a little bit more, who knows? And then go and secure the two WIFA loans. So what I intend to do is recommend that we hold off and not do the WIFA loans this year, this budget cycle, and wait until after the adoption of the budget in July of 2025, and look for a window in the fall of 2025. It will slow down some of our projects, but we have other projects we're working on. If we need to, if we find that we feel more comfortable, we can accelerate that. But having those rates in place to make sure we hit the 1.2 multiplier before we go to WIFA, so they know that we can afford this. And what the 1.2 is, we got to make sure that we bring in revenue 0.2% more than we spend in operational costs. And they're not going to loan us money if we're not, bringing in a little bit more than we're spending. We don't want to be upside down. And right now, I think I will tell you right now, we would not qualify for a WIFA loan at the current rate structure.
And you don't want to not do that because their dollars are discounted.
And
So
we're
some of it's
using
forgivable.
we're using WIFA to leverage some of the other federal money that we're getting. The one thing that I will tell you is that we have the 595 water line that is I think a $2.8 million project. 750,000 of that, our 25% match was going to come from that WIFA loan that we are not applying for now. Now the project and the timeline and the window is such that I think we can swing it, and because we will not slow down on that 595 project, the water line out to the fairgrounds, the improvements. That is so important, and it's 2.8 million that we're getting from the federal government. Yeah. We will find a way, and then we can do both. We can set the rates, hold back a little bit on the WIFA loans, and still bring that project home without slowing it down. And I think we had an infrastructure work group meeting this morning. We'll talk about that 2 weeks, but we kind of went over this a little bit more in detail. But I think this is a sound conservative plan. We have, this council is very transparent. This council is very conservative when it comes to money, and we got to make sure that we have the money before we borrow based on that money.
Yes.
So I missed the infrastructure meeting today because I was at the WIFA meeting.
Oh.
And,
Get some money for us.
but because of the budget shortfall and the governor's budget, some of their money did not come in that they thought would be. But we decided to go out for bonding, and so we were very successful. So we'll have, we're getting more money so that we can continue our projects.
Great.
And I believe that the money that we had been looking at with these, and it's not, they're loans, low interest loans, with some forgivable. I thought they were not too impacted, but is that not the case where the bucket, the funds that supply our water and wastewater?
What we're trying to do is, we've been promising money out. So once it's allocated out for a project, some of those projects have been way delayed. And so here's this money that's tied up but not being used. And so what we're trying to do now is we're going to try to do a little bit more. You got to be ready. You got to be shovel ready before you start applying. The other thing is maybe break it up into phases. That way we can release money and then release money, because we have other great projects that come on and they need it. It's urgent, but we can't because we've already committed and these guys are a year and a half behind or something. So, so we're trying to tighten that up. But we just went to bonding and we did very, very well. So
good, because when we're ready, we want it to be there. So, Mr. Mayor, members of council, we're looking for action. This does not, you do not need to waive the rule because this will come back multiple times after this. But this is the initial.
This is approval, not move forward then, just an approval to move forward.
Approval to approve this, approval of the notice of intent to increase.
Okay.
And, but it is, like I say, it's the beginning of a long process. Normally, we waive the rule if it's the final time it'll be at council. This is not the final time that rates will be at council.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, if there's no further discussion, I'll make a motion to approve the notice of intent to increase
The date.
water and wastewater rates and fees.
second.
Motion and second for approval of item 6A. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Any abstaining? Motion passed. Item B is discussion and consideration to adopt the 2021 ICC International Codes, 2021 International Fire Code, and the 2020 NFPA 70 National Electric Code with local amendments by approving ordinance number 889, amending Chapter 5, Fire Department Article 5-2, Fire Prevention Code, and Chapter 12, Building Article 12-1, Building Safety Code to appeal and replace the previously adopted ordinance section 12-1-1, adoption of building code, and Article 5-2, Fire Prevention Code. Shelley, can you read ordinance number 889, please?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Ordinance number 889, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Globe, Gila County, Arizona, amending Chapter 5, Fire Department, and Chapter 12, Building of the Globe City Code by repealing Articles 5-2, Fire Prevention Code of Chapter 5, Fire Department, and 12-1, Building Safety Code of Chapter 12, Building, and adopting by reference new Article 12-1 entitled Building Safety Code relating to the regulation of construction, enlargement, alteration, repair, demolition, conversion, occupancy, equipment, use, height, area, and maintenance of buildings and structures in the City of Globe, providing for the issuance of permits and collection of fees, providing for severability, and establishing an effective date. Is council pleased with that reading?
Yes. Mouthful. Tony?
Mayor, members of the city council, good evening. How are you all?
I hope you're going through every page of this.
I have, and I'm gonna get to that. But I think Shelley just really hit everything I was gonna say, so I don't know if I really. But, I'll reiterate some of the things that we have talked about before, going through this process. Our 21 code, I-code adoption, our amendments, our ordinance. So again, some of this is repeated information, but I'm gonna cover some areas that, to help understand the process that we went through and the whys and how the new ordinance will read. So I'm proposing new codes are all the 21I codes to include the fire code. The difference here is the NFPA 70 is the 20. It always lags behind a year. That's why you see that. This is just reiterating what we have. So I'd like to talk about our review and code adoption stats. I find them really interesting. We enlisted third-party consultation. That was Veritas, Bureau of Veritas. We had 2 CBOs. Those are chief building officials through that agency, and the resources from Bureau of Veritas. We had myself. We had the City of Globe Fire Marshal. We're looking at over 90 years of combined experience, and that's really important part to remember here, is that based on the experience brought to the table, to include code adoption in the past, for myself, I had been through this process 3 times when I was in the Valley working, and the other CBOs have been through this multiple times. And then all in general of code work, 90 years is a pretty substantial number. We have 2 years of work into this project. When you look on the table in front of you, you see a stack of 11 publications. If you multiply that by code cycles, 7 of them, by 11 books, we're talking about 77 books. So when you asked me, Mayor, about if I went through every page, we had 77 books stacked that high times 7. That's a lot of material to go through. So when you think about the 2 years that we were going through this is why. We had to do our due diligence to go through. We had to look at the changes from the 03 cycles to the 21 cycles, what was pertinent to us, what changed, why it changed, how it changed, things of that nature. That's how we derived our amendments. So the finished project is a 66-page document, ordinance. When you look at that versus what we had in the past, that might be astonishing to you. We had basically 1 page before, but I just want to hit the fact that it's not really 66 pages of amendments, it's 66 pages of verbiage. And so what we did was we took Chapter 5 out of the ordinance, we merged it into Chapter 12, verbalized it to read as we needed it to. And why we did that is to provide seamlessness. We wanted people to be able to refer to the code cycles all in one section. That was number 1, and that's what we're accomplishing by doing this. Secondly, our amendments are sectionized. They refer to each section of the code. A lot of times jurisdictions, when they do their amendments, they'll put it into their own sections to work with their code, their municipal code. What we did is we worked with the code sections. We wanted people to, again, we wanted this to be seamless, quick, easy, accessible, understandable. And so by providing those code sections, it made people be able to go, oh, okay, all I have to do is read this code section, go to the code section in the book. That's the amended language. That's why we did that. So I'd like to hit the top amendments. I know without getting too deep into the weeds on this, I want you to understand where and what is part of our amendment ordinance. So out of all the code books, they're all pretty much sectionized the same. Each chapter, you know, you have administration, definitions, building planning, and so forth, right? Each code book kind of starts with the same stuff. So administrative sections were all amended. We did this to outline our processes, our procedures, our practices, identify and make them transparent, provide clarity. Formal City of Globe adoption language, we haven't had that. So what we're really identifying as the City of Globe is formally adopting these codes. It sounds minuscule, but it's a very important aspect of amendment. Internal policies, again, these are what we do internally. We want that to be transparent. We want people to understand what that looks like and what to expect. That was a broken piece we had in the past. These are all things that we're trying to amend with new code amendments and new code adoption. So exempt from permits. IBC, IRC, the residential code, the building code. There's two, each one has exempt from permits in there. We stick to really straight code as much as we can. We're not trying to reinvent the wheel. Remember, the codes are derived from experience of loss history and engineering attributes, right? And that gives us a safer building, safer environment. It also allows us to utilize more efficient, maybe cheaper, multi-manufactured products to build houses and make them better. And so when I show that to the stakeholders, I equate that to our past practices. So we all grew up with big tube TVs in our bedrooms and living rooms, right? You had to hire a moving company to move it. Now we have thin LCD TVs. You can pick them up in one hand. These things are 65 inches or bigger and move them. Clarity's better, the picture's better, right? The videos or audio's better. They just work better all around. This is what I equate code to. It's all about moving forward and being forward thinking, and for all the right reasons, not just because we do it, because we should do it. And forward thinking keeps us in tune with other jurisdictions. Best practices, keeps us in line with developers, homeowners. It doesn't matter whether it's commercial or residential. People move from all areas of the country to different states and jurisdictions, and you want them to have some familiar attributes to what's expected from code. And most people do. When you run into people, people understand what permits are or what attributes of permits are. So this is essential in amending and adopting code. So exempt from permits, we defined verbiage in these areas. We kept it to straight code, just like we did in the 03 code. Those items really never change, and I don't want to get too deep in the weeds unless you have further questions, but we just verbalized or re-verbalized some areas to make it more clear for people to understand what is actually exempt from a building permit and what is still required to have a zoning clearance done, right? But zoning clearances address other things than permits. Permits are just for building attributes. Zoning is for setbacks and what's allowed in the property. And we talked a little about that earlier. We talked about that in the past. So we identified those things. Nextly was climatic data. This is our region's data, wind speed, snow loads, right, water, uplift. These are all attributes. This is our zone, what area we're in. These are all attributes that we build to. This is a very important aspect, very customizable. Remember, codes are international code. We have to amend them. They're made for you to amend these pieces to fit into your jurisdiction for these reasons. Here we have fairly heavy or strong winds. We have flooding. We have fires, right? We have snow. And so we want to make sure that we adjust that climatic data to our builds. That can affect a brand new build to remodels, right? The climatic data affects an overall construction of a structure. So we readjusted that. Arizona revised statutes. We had to call those out. So
can I ask you real quick
Yeah.
on the climate data?
Yes.
So you look at the current data, and if it justifies changing our codes for that data, then you're doing that now, right? You're adjusting it now?
So how that looks in straight code is they're blank, right? They're blank for a reason, so you can put your numbers in, right? We get that information from our state resources, whether that from weather, climatic data, that's where most of it comes, right? And then we insert it per our region.
Yeah, because our storms are getting much more intense. I mean, our
They are.
insurance claims are already going.
right? So things have changed, and so that gets reevaluated for those agencies. We haven't had a reevaluation on our zone, and we're in like 8B and 9A, we're in the middle of those two. And what that kind of means is our overall picture of climate here. That's really what a zone is telling you. And then all the other numbers are decisive numbers that you put in for your wind, right? We don't want buildings blowing over, we want them safe, we want them built properly, engineered properly, to withstand what wind values that we put in there. And so that's where the climatic data stuff comes from. ARS callouts are, and again, these are blank areas of the code. You do your due diligence, you go in and you look at what the state statutes say. A good example of this are swimming pools. So swimming pools are defined by the state of Arizona to be a specific depth and width. And so we call that out. They also identify pool safety devices, right? Pool fencing, alarm systems, self-closing gates on the houses and windows, things like that. So we call that out and we insert it and make it clear. So we're doing all this to make sure it's kind of like the one-stop shop where you can go to the code and you can see these values, so you don't have to look them up. And it just makes it a more seamless process. Appendices are more another important factor. So these are the appendices of every book has one. Do we need to adopt every appendice? In the past, we have. And a lot of places will, just for the sake of not having to go through them, they adopt the 2021 building code with all appendices. It's restrictive. And we're providing restrictive measures that may not apply to the people of Globe or Arizona in general. So we go through the appendices and we look at what applies, why it applies, how restrictive the appendices are, and then we adopt as needed, and that's all we adopt. We don't do a straightforward adoption across the board and adopt every appendix because we simply don't need it. And if we did that, then we would have to follow the appendices. You know, a submitter or an applicant would have to follow all those things. So, in general, I mean, did you have any questions on the amendments itself or what we looked at and how? Any questions at this point? So, again, going back to the whys of code adoption. In our former last meetings, I passed out a handout, Benefits of Adopting Code. Those give a good reference to that. I kind of broke them down again. I'd like to just touch on them again, get it back in our minds and the processing of it. So forward thinking, better economic development opportunities. Development has to see these things to want to invest in our city. They want to invest in a comprehensive, they want to invest in a strong, forward-thinking, and succession planning environment. You're talking about the people who are spending a lot of money, whether it's a homeowner coming here to spend $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 on building a house, or a developer commercial coming in spending $22, $28 million. It's a lot of money. And so these are things, in all fairness, they want to see. This is investing in our own city. This is providing best practice and sustainability for our buildings, better health and safety and welfare for our citizens all around. That's what code does. So, and then of course our dedication to keep up with other jurisdictions to provide seamless development. That's important. Keeping up with other jurisdictions keeps confusion down. It provides a better service for particularly design professionals, whether they're architectural, again, residential, commercial, whether they're architectural, they're engineering, all these, right? They have an idea, and that's why a lot of design professionals, they kind of purge their systems after a certain amount of time and get rid of older code, and that's where we're at. So we're over 20 years behind the code. And we've been stricken with these design professionals calling and saying, hey, we don't even support that software anymore. And what I mean by that is they have electronic software. That's how they do the development. They punch in what they need, it spits it out. That's how they design. It's an easy process for them. It makes it less confusion. And again, they're doing this all over the world. And remember, iCodes are adopted in all 50 states. And so you can see the broad scenario there, you know, when it comes to developers and architects and engineers or a homeowner builder. So codes provide better options for homeowners. They provide better options for contractors, developers, designers. New codes provide better material use options, best engineering practices, safety. ICC codes can be grieved. There's a process for that, but they're also reviewed by their staff through the International Code Council, and they remove old, outdated language requirements, and they fix problematic language, right? They find over time, lost history dictates that. So over time, with lost history, they may say, well, you know what, we have that in the code as a requirement, but we're seeing people dying, or if buildings failing, we need to adjust. We need to pay some attention to it. That's what newer codes do. Again, we're stuck over 20 years behind. We don't have that option at this point. We're way in the past with that aspect. So I already hit the cost savings on architectural and designer services that most don't support the 03. They will inflate their prices if they have to go back to 03. So whether you're residential or commercial, they're going to inflate your prices because now they either got to subscribe to an 03 code or software electronic version to do their build out. That doesn't come free, so they're going to make it up somewhere. And then all the other aspects and time they have to put into older code, they're going to inflate their prices. So, and then adhering to state requirements. So a good example of this is some states, actually, the state has a minimum requirement for code. And if you don't meet that minimum requirement and keep up with it, the state can actually come in and take your code and enforce their code and everything that comes with it. We lose a handle on our own jurisdiction if that were to occur. Arizona's not one of those states, but we do have that when it comes to our fire code. So we have the state fire requirements. Those are 2018 requirements. We have to meet, we're in the 03. I know I keep repeating that, but we are in the 03, they're in the 2018. That means they could take that over. Our option is to go to the 2018 and apply the 2018 IFC. But that's not an option that is adopted by council and mayor. So we're in the 03, so it leaves us in a little bit of a predicament there. That's why going back to more modern codes keeps us out of that trouble, keeps us from having to deal with issues like that or worries. And now we meet and or exceed. We're going to the 21. So that was another item. Adopting most current codes and standards provides the opportunity for increased resiliency in response to emergencies and disasters. We talked a little about that. This results in economic benefits to the community by decreasing damage to homes, business, natural disasters. It also puts us in a stronger foothold when it comes to grants. Right? Puts us in a better position when it comes to insuring our homes. Puts us in a better position when it comes to lenders, when it comes to investors. These are all aspects of what the new code's going to do for us. So these are the issues. I had conversation today with an upcoming developer for a bank coming to Globe. And we actually, they're prologuing the process to get into the 21 code. They want to be in the 21 code. That's telling you something right there. And this isn't the first time this has happened. So most of our submittals and things that we see coming in, people are exceeding the O3s. We have to remind them it has to be the O3. We could lose business, we could lose development. So how do we work with that? Do we provide them a code allowance to move into a different code, right? Other than what was adopted by city council and mayor? Or do we let the development go? Which is more economic sense to that? And going to a new code, keeping development, having development makes more sense to me. So that was an interesting conversation I had today. Transition and timeline, we talked about this in the past too, just reiterate on this, is after adoption, it goes into effect 30 days thereafter. Grace period for permit submittals, meaning that they will be able to use the 2003 or the 2021 during that grace period, in case we have designers or submittals that are in between. It wouldn't be fair for us to halt that process and make them go into a new code, so we provide some sort of grace period that we work with. So the plan is for applications and permits up to December 31st of this year, may be submitted by utilizing either code. And then on or after January 1st of the new year, all applications for permits will need to be submitted utilizing the 21 codes. I know this is a big step for Globe. This is something we haven't seen for over 20 years. And there's a lot of thought of what's going to change and what's the difference and is it more restrictive and is it going to do this and how does this apply to me? Simply put, nothing changes other than those books. They just say 21 on it. We've already had an IC adopted code in the city of Globe from 2003. The attributes are just changing. Nothing in the code changes. The requirements of to applicants and build, nothing's changing. They're just changing a year of the book. We don't go around saying now you got to come into compliance with the 21 code. Everybody, regardless of what you do, that's not true. So code doesn't work that way. And I just want to reiterate that as well. Again, we've already had a 2003 code adoption, ICC code adoption for the city of Globe. 21 codes don't change a thing in that process. And all the amendments and the things I covered earlier in the slide set about the amendments, reiterate, clarify, provide seamlessness, and accountability for the city and its outline. That's why those amendments are so important. That's why it looks like that. This is what an amendment package should look like. And this is a normal process, and it is what it should look like. It shouldn't be a one-page document. We're cutting things short if it is. We're not explaining things well enough if it is. We're not doing citizens justice if it is. And we're putting the city at very big risk if we aren't identifying all the things that I had listed earlier. So if there's any questions on any of that, I'll do my best to answer them.
Just from a broad, high-level perspective, our counterparts, the other cities and towns, are they going along with adopting this?
So our neighboring cities, or are
Yeah.
you talking in general?
In general, in the state.
So most agencies are in the 18 code, going to the 21 or 24. Our neighboring Kiowa County jurisdiction is now projecting their 24 adoption. So not getting too deep into that answer, we reached out to them early on and asked if they wanted to join us in the 21 adoption. They did not at that point want to partake. They had other things going. Their plate was full. And I understand that. It would have been nice to get them all on the 21 and we would have had that, that seamlessness in our area very helpful towards everybody. But what I project is if they go to 24, it's going to take them a year to 2 years to do that. I would like to see us get on a schedule where we bring adoption up every other code cycle. It alleviates this issue that we were faced with. It keeps us in line with the ISO folks and all the other agencies. And so by the time that happens again, I think the projection is that the county and the city of Globe will then be into the 27 codes together. And so that's something to look forward to. That's kind of a big step for our general area. As far as, I'm sorry.
Yeah, Paul, I didn't hear any of this being mentioned at the convention, the League of Cities and Towns.
Oh, the updating codes?
Yeah, I didn't hear any of that going on, or activity. That's why I was
Yeah.
curious.
I think most of the cities that we interact with down there are doing it on a regular cycle.
Okay.
I'm not sure what the culture was that, I'd always heard, oh, it's gonna bring in some kind of, I don't know, there's something about it, but it just seems like something that we've just never felt we had the development that we needed it. And I think that's what's let us lag and what is now motivating us. But most cities are on a cycle, let's say every other.
They're doing it. That's important to know.
Yeah.
As we go into this future where we're looking to try to develop our future and develop the land that is available.
The people coming in, everybody's designing to the newer codes. We're,
yeah.
Again, this is growing pains that we're catching up.
Yeah. No, it's a tremendous amount of work you've done. I'm really impressed.
Thank you.
I really have seen over the years other counties who do it as a matter of course. And for us to play catch up, yeah, we have to. But more importantly, we'll be mainstream. So that's good for the architects, that's good for all the industries, and I get that.
Thank you, Councilman. So if I could just back off of that a little bit and what people, so just recently, the 24 codes have really come into full play of adoption, meaning that it takes a while for that to happen. When we decided to move forward with adopting a modern code, the 21 was at its pivotal point. That was what we had to work with. There was no 24. 24 was still being worked through. So we didn't have the option just to go to 24. So we had to go to 21. And so now the 24 is out. They just released some verbiage and documentation that all the certs and testing and other things associated with the 24 codes are now up and running. So when you start hearing that from the ICC, that means that they're fully operational. So that's just now becoming fully operational in the 24 capacity. So we're in good shape with the 21 and doing what we're doing.
Good. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Mayor.
Go ahead, Mike.
So if I come in and I buy a building, okay, today, and I'm not gonna do anything real major other than minor improvements, everything has to be in line with the new code?
So once the new code goes into full adoption, it will, which would be the January 1st, 25. So at this point, if you were to buy that building today, it's still the 03. And even if it's 15 days from now or about 30 days, it's still the 03. After full adoption, and we have this 2 reads. Is that what we?
Yeah, we'll talk about that at the very end.
Okay,
but
so after full adoption and it's accepted and adopted, then I believe it's a 30-day period, and then it becomes live. Okay.
But if I own the building and I just do a little bit of something, okay, I don't know what. When the new code gets it to effect, do I have to go back into my building and bring it up to?
No.
I can leave it the same as long as I don't make any major improvements. I mean, like if I put windows in or take a window out or something.
Correct, and there's 2 pieces to that. One is when you say minor, small things, those are probably exempt. Painting, trim work, small cabinetry, small partition walls, plug and play devices, things like that, all exempt from code or permitting. okay? I don't wanna say exempt from code because they're code requirement, but they're exempt from permitting. And so when you do those things and they're exempt, there's no worry at all between whatever code.
Okay.
If you got something that was permittable and you did something, and then 30 days later, we went into the 21 code, and what you did, you got a permit for it? No, you did that under a live code that was in action,
Okay.
and you're covered. There's no retroing. There's no going back and saying, well, you did this a month ago, now we're in the 21, you're gonna have to bring up the code. It doesn't work that way. And again, just to reemphasize on how our 03 code works the same way. No difference than if you were to build something or done something under the Unified Building Code, right? The UBC, UMC, UPC, URC, right? The uniform codes that we had that took us in from the 70s to, you know, just about where the beginning of the 98, I believe, ICC codes came out. And so we adopted 2003. No difference. So those people that built under that, they were permitted and they were just. So it's what happens after the fact. So if now you did that work and now we adopted in the code and you're saying, well, my house is, 50 years old, the old code's applied. No, it's not how it works. It's the newly adopted codes now. And that's and the same thing with the 03, no difference.
Mr. Mayor, members of council, Councilman Pastor, I think what would trigger that more so is not the year of the code, but the extent of the changes. We had a building, commercial building that started off with minor changes and they were using the code. And then they hit over 50% because the changes got more and more aggressive as they're necessary. And it triggered some additional requirements that they had to upgrade. But they were all based on the 2003 code, and it'd be the same thing in the 21 code. It's not so much the year of the code, it's the extent of the changes.
Okay.
And I think what you're talking about is hit a certain point of changes where you do have to upgrade it. But if you're just same use, and there's a lot of variables, and just the simple things, usually you don't have to go back and update everything to the code. Like Tony said, it was passed legally at the time.
Right. In these ICC codes, the 2021 that we're adopting, Chapter 12 allows for historic preservation within the code, correct? So there's exceptions within it if the building is deemed historic by state or federal administration, correct?
So there is preservation language there, but we also have adopted the International Existing Building Code, which also addresses the historic preservation. Very important code, especially for a town that has structures that are 100+ years old. So I would highly recommend using the International Existing Building Code where you can, because it does give you a lot of leeway when dealing with buildings. And let's face the facts, we got old buildings. We need to make them safe, right? Not only for if they get ill and have an event, and then we have public safety, but for the occupants that either live in it daily or shop in it or come, But the IEBC, very important tool to utilize. It gives you a lot of leeway and things to work with on the historic buildings.
Okay, and that only applies for those buildings that have that designation, correct?
So
not for any of our historic buildings that we consider in our historic district, they would have to actually have that placard or.
Some of the language it does under the building or the IRC code or the IBC code, the International Existing Code doesn't necessarily have a designation.
Okay.
It just works off of International Existing Building.
Okay.
So what that is made for is to allow you leeway without having to have a designation.
Okay.
So because what we hit on earlier is we have a lot of buildings that we simply don't have a designation for historic prevalence. And we have a small area that is. The IEBC allows you to use an older building. It doesn't matter if it was built 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 50 years ago, 100 years ago.
Okay.
There are attributes in that code that
the reason I bring that up is I think that's a lot of fear within the community is they're buying these older buildings and how much more money are they going to have to put into it if we go to a different code. but understanding that there are exceptions and they have the codes are there to help them, and there is some wiggle room, if you will, and so I appreciate that.
And yeah, if I can touch on that a little bit more, is that we have that now. And nothing, again, the misunderstanding of how codes work is what the big picture is here. When people say, they just assume, oh, it's not how it works. And whether you're using an IEBC to get your 100-year-old home remodeled and you're trying to get,
Sure.
leverage where you can, the codes in the 03, the same aspect was there and availability was there. Nothing's changing. The only thing that changes with code is the requirements to prevent loss history, safety, engineering attributes. That's what codes are derived from. It's not there. These are minimum requirements, okay? Yeah, and that's another important aspect that people don't understand is I have people come to me and say, oh, I got to build to that, code. And I'm like, it's the minimum requirements. It says it right here. These are minimum requirements to build a house or the remodel, right? Or any minimum requirements. And you have to really instill that in people because they're the minimum requirements to do it safely, effectively. And why do we do that? And I get a lot of talk about, it's my house, I'll do what I want, or why can't I do what I want? I'm the one that's going to live in it and pay the price if something happens. That's not true. We have neighborhoods, and we're in our area, we have neighborhoods where setbacks just don't work very good here, and topography issues. So when your house catches fire because you wired it with the incorrect wiring, that just doesn't always affect you. It could affect your homeowner next door. It can affect a brush fire and spread like wildfire and burn hundreds of houses down. And we have seen that over lost history, over the course of our time, just watching the news and seeing what happens when disasters hit or when fires hit. And then being in the fire service, when you look at structures that are next to other structures and how they spread and what happens there, and people die and they lose their investments. And we all need to do our part to ensure that we're providing our due diligence so that doesn't happen and people don't lose loved ones because of a fire.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
I was just gonna make a motion.
Yeah, I just had one more comment on something you said too. I don't know why there's a fear in our community about the 21 code, because we've always had code. I think the culture of our community is that we did things without permitting. We did things without following code, but we've always had code. We had an 03 code. But I think now, moving to a professional city and moving up to, or elevating our city to another level, we have to make sure that people do not do unpermitted work and modifications without following the fire code.
Agree.
And building code.
And Mr. Mayor, members of council, just to follow up on Councilman Letham's statement, I think people are fearful that the fact that we have a historical preservation district means that every building in there has a unique historical designation to the building. And that's not true, very many. It's a district, it's an overlay. It doesn't mean that that specific building has these requirements, because that can get pretty awkward and a lot of things you gotta go through. Just because it's in a historical district does not mean that it's a truly historical building. You keep trying to explain to the federal government about the Silver King. It's not a historical building. It's a warehouse that collapsed.
Mr. Mayor, if there's no other questions or comments, I'd
Yeah, we
motion.
need to do something about that building.
Then if it wasn't in a historical district.
I'd motion to approve the adoption of the 2021 ICC International Codes, 2021 International Fire Code, and the 202 NFPA 70 National Electric Code with local amendments and replacing Chapter 5 through ordinance number 880 and bringing it back to the next regularly scheduled meeting of October 22nd, 2024 for final consideration and possible approval.
Good, Chair. Good move. Second.
And Mr. Mayor, members of council, the reason that we're pushing this forward to another meeting is if you have questions, there's 60 pages of local amendments in there. If you want to take the time, look through those, you have any questions over the next 2 weeks, And we can get you paper copies of that. You can bring those forward in that 2 weeks.
So this is a move forward motion, not an approval, okay?
It's not approving it right now. It is a lot. And you could, I mean, if you wanted to approve it right now, we are comfortable with that. But I think because there's so much information in the packet that some of you may want to take some time to do a little reading. And we got reading for you.
Okay, we got a motion to approve item 6B, not approve, but move it forward to the next meeting. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Any abstaining? Motion passed. Thank you, Tony.
Thank you, man.
Item C is consideration to approve lease agreement number 2025-0109 with the Arizona Department of Transportation, project number F-022-3-832 for the property located at 579 South Broad Street, Globe, at a monthly rate of $500 per month.
So, Mr. Mayor, members of council, we, staff did such a good job at negotiating this lease. It turns out the lease itself is actually for $500 a year rather than $500 a month. So.
What's that?
That's amazing.
500 a year.
Read them.
And when we got the lease, Shelley's got the lease and put it up there, we had all been anticipating a month. And so we put it in there.
It's a year.
And Shelley, you confirmed?
Yes.
Yes.
Wow.
And in there it says annual cost $500.
Yeah, Stratton's got some. Jeez.
Yeah.
We,
Send
you
a
know,
bottle of whiskey to
staff is
Steve's.
like,
Don't
what-
argue, let's
No,
approve it.
let's move it, move on.
Don't even discuss it, yeah.
Let's run, yeah, run that thing.
But make a motion with the stipulation that it's $500 a year.
Okay, Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to approve the lease agreement number 2025-0109 with ADOT for the property located at 579 South Broad Street, Globe, at a yearly,
Annual lease
Okay.
of $500.
it says monthly here,
Yeah, annual.
an annual rate of $500
Wow.
and move to the next available meeting for final consideration.
Or do you want to just waive the rules?
Okay, and make a motion to waive the rules.
Second.
And just, before you vote, Shelley, they're open to allowing us supporting us in grant.
Yes, they're working on language.
Yeah.
to support.
Good, good.
So they can help get some money for it,
Of
so,
course, all the restrictions are pretty,
yeah, so.
pretty thick for $500.
$1,400 a month to $500 a year is pretty good.
It's crazy. You're sure they didn't have to make a typo?
No, I have a confirmation email. I did question it because.
Save
we were
that
trying-
email, save that email, man. Put it in the safe.
So we got a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
Motion second for approval of item number 6C. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. Any abstaining? That was an easy one.
Yeah.
Action item number 7A, discussion consideration to approve number IGA 2025-0110 with the town of Miami for the Copper Mountain Transit System in the amount of $73,000, funded from account number 10-50-51255, Mayor and Council Transportation, HB 2565 match.
Mr. Mayor, members of council, again, the Copper Mountain Transit System, this is a system that transport, majority of people are in Globe and people to Globe retail, medical. It supports those people who either cannot afford a car or who choose not to drive, and we're happy about that. That they can get around, and that system has been very popular. It's running well. I know in the future we're looking at a change in the legislative structure of it that is going to a county-wide oversight group, but that is not going to happen this budget cycle. They need the money to operate, and so we pitch in along with the county our portion to support Miami, and this helps them pay for their portion of the match. Mayor, I know you've been on the committee and talking about this.
Yeah, I'm on the transit committee that we meet on a quarterly basis. And the legislative change that the county's gonna take place won't happen probably, we're still a year to 2 years off. We did form a committee, of various people. There are 3 members on the executive board. There's 2 from Northern Gila County, and I'm on third one from Southern Gila County. But yeah, the structure's still being, developed, and, like I said, it'll still be off quite a bit till we get there. So 73,000 is what we normally pay annually anyway.
Yeah, all right. And the county did, I think, paid their share
I
already.
have not verified.
Yeah, and just so you know, we will not make the check until,
Yeah.
we make sure the county has paid
And
their.
they did their presentation already with the county,
Okay,
so
so-
they should be paying it here.
Just confirm.
Mike?
Has there been any discussion on your group about, the Wheatfields area as far as running the route out that way?
No, there hasn't been no change. The only change that we're working on right now is to eliminate the Safeway transit stop on Hill Street and move it to the new Hill Street School area. But we gotta, anytime we make a change or add, we either have to add one, or we have to take away one to add one,
Yeah.
so we don't disturb the times, and it has to have ADOT approval. We have to submit an application through ADOT.
And there's never been any discussion on it, any more
No,
discussion?
I can bring it up, if that's what,
I used to bring it up every once in a while,
I'll bring it up on the next
because
meeting.
there are people out there that do need to get around.
Okay.
No other questions or comments, Mayor? Motion to approve item 7A.
Second.
Motion second for approval, item 7A is read. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay, and abstaining, motion passed. Any late agenda items?
No, Mr. Mayor.
Second call to the public.
Let's take a look here. Nope, nothing I see in the email.
Scheduling the meetings, do we have any to,
No changes to announce at this point.
okay. Future agenda items?
No e-session?
No e-session. Future agenda items, that's will be at the council.
Oh, sorry.
For future, meetings, do we have another meeting with the tax group? Cause I wasn't
It
there.
hasn't been set up yet.
Oh, I thought it was just 3.
No, we need to, the next step is to run by with the mayor and then schedule a meeting where we're going to roll out what we last talked about.
Right.
Yeah.
I thought we were meeting this
Yeah.
week with Al, so
Right.
this was update Al.
The clean answer is no, we haven't set that meeting up yet.
Gotcha.
I think what Shelley said at the beginning.
Future agenda items?
I don't
we have
think
any-
it needs to be updated. I just need an update. We've approved a couple things that I just don't know where they're at, such as like when we approved the alley beautification thing with the, that never went anywhere, and I don't know where that's at. And then we had talked about a, engineering firm that the residents would be able to use, and that, I've never heard anything more than that.
I think that was Wildan. I think we were gonna do like some.
So, I think, yeah, I think that one's a while back. I don't know if that's as practical, we can have that conversation. And then what about the alley?
There was something, what was it?
Oh, she wanted to,
Yeah, we approved doing the alley, but then it never went anywhere.
yeah, I think
Yeah.
because it was just so.
There was too many
Yeah,
safety
yeah, that-
issues with
yeah.
fire and build, and
Too many.
We never got an update as to where it went, what happened.
I think it just died.
I
I think it
think
just died. They
You're
never
right.
pursued it.
That was Thea,
I don't
right?
remember.
Yeah, that's just.
Well, it's
Yeah.
because we gave them a list of
I- it seems
10,000
to be that-
things.
yeah.
That's why they didn't.
The utilities.
There was a lot of safety issues
That's
there.
none of
The
it.
utilities.
Just so you can give me an update.
Walking that alley.
It doesn't even, I don't think it needs to be an agendized thing, just.
Right, that's what it is. They were trying to clean it up.
Any other future agenda item? Motion to adjourn?
Motion made.
Second.
Motion and second to adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Meeting adjourned.
Can you see me?
Thank you. Thank you, Zoomland.